question. What would our society be like if we were all ordinary? You laugh because the very word is anathema to us, ordinary. Our culture teaches exactly the opposite. We praise babies for speaking words before their peers. We commend honor roll students. We offer bonuses to speedy workers. And we eulogize men and women of valor. Most wouldn't dare label ourselves as ordinary because to us the word implies typical and unremarkable at best, or boring and unimportant at worst. However, this past weekend, I now have a new understanding of what it means to be ordinary. This past weekend, Rabbi Geffen and I accompanied 40 adults from the congregation on a 4-day adventure in America's Deep South. I see some of you here. There you go, waving your hand. Last Thursday, we landed in Atlanta and spent Friday and Saturday in Alabama, touring Montgomery and Selma and Birmingham. We visited the Rosa Parks Museum, EJI's National Memorial for Peace and Justice, the Birmingham Civil Rights Institute. We prayed at Dr. King's Church, Ebenezer Baptist, and met American heroes who participated in the civil rights movement and who remain committed to pursuing justice today. We met Martha Hawkins. Martha was born the 10th of 12 children to a poor family in Montgomery, Alabama. Later, a poor single mother herself, she battled extreme mental illness. Even her closest relatives doubted that she would ever amount to anything. However, filled with the Spirit of God and hope, Martha persevered. And eventually she opened the restaurant that she had dreamed of opening since childhood. Our group met with her at Martha's Place Buffet, Martha's restaurant and catering hall, nourishing soul and body in suburban Montgomery. We also met Joanne Bland. At only 9 years old, Joanne trained with the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee, called SNCC, joining other children and teenagers in the civil rights movement. By 11 years old, Joanne had been arrested 13 times. On the front lines of the struggle, the young Bland marched on Bloody Sunday, she marched on Turnaround Tuesday, and she marched in the first leg of the successful march from Selma to Montgomery. Today, Miss Bland shares her eyewitness accounts of history with groups like ours, inspiring generations of history makers. Joanne told us that she is just an ordinary individual. Ordinary. That was a common mantra among the movement's leaders. Diane Nash, whose leadership helped to found the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee, once remarked, "History books mistakenly portray the civil rights movement as Dr. Martin Luther King's movement. But it was a people's movement. Many thousands participated. If young people think of it as King's movement, they'll wish for a leader. But if they understand that it was a movement of ordinary people who did it, well, they can ask themselves then, what can I do?" By design, the civil rights movement was a movement of ordinary people doing remarkable work, one step, one letter, one day at a time, to cause enormous change. This week's Torah portion offers the tale of another freedom movement, one that was also built upon the faithful actions of thousands. Here in the penultimate portion in the book of Exodus, the Israelites prepare for their march from Sinai to God's promised land. In its opening verses, Moses instructs the people to build the Mishkan, the portable sanctuary they would carry with them along their journey. Sound familiar? Okay, good. Rabbi Jill Hammer teaches, as the Israelite people build the Mishkan, they rely on their inner wisdom and individual gifts. Although the pattern of the Mishkan comes from the eternal, the gifts that make the sanctuary what it is come from the depths of the human heart. The great artist Bezalel and the lesser-known Oholiav were appointed as its project managers. Bezalel, a skilled craftsman, was certainly capable of constructing the Mishkan on his own. Yet he was not the only one who God called upon by name to construct it. We read in the first verses of Exodus 36, "Let then Bezalel and Oholiav carry out all that Adonai has commanded." So why does God call upon Oholiav, an otherwise unknown individual, to help build the Mishkan too? Who is he? Oholiav is not the son of royalty. He descends from the lowly tribe of Dan. Remember, Dan, the tribe's forefather, was one of the sons of Bilhah, Jacob's concubine. Although he is mentioned once in rabbinic writings among a list of 70 elders, Oholiav's name is hardly ever mentioned in our tradition. In fact, Oholiav and his people were perceived to be among the most insignificant at Sinai. And so in singling him out with Bezalel, God reminds us of the importance of every single individual, regardless of one's station in life. Each individual contribution to the Mishkan building project was valued by God and necessary in mobilizing the people. You've heard me use this metaphor many times. Without a single puzzle piece, mine or yours, our great puzzle is incomplete. Our words and our actions matter. Just like the civil rights movement that began here in the U.S. in the 1950s, the success of our biblical ancestors' march to the Promised Land also required offerings and sacrifices from each individual whose heart was so moved. Outspoken leaders, skilled lieutenants, and the ordinary masses. So I'll ask the question one more time. What would our society be like if we were all ordinary? If we each heeded God's call, commanding everyone whose heart is so moved to come together in action? We wouldn't need to wait for one exceptional leader because each of us, instead, would commit to doing our part for the good of all humanity, contributing what we can to help move everyone forward along our shared life journey. Each of us, in our glorious ordinariness, is capable of remarkable things. And as history has shown, great change happens when everyone, from Martin Luther King Jr.'s to the Joanne Blands, from the Bezalels to the Oholiavs among us, each giving from our own hearts, works together to build a world worthy of God's presence.